everybody. Welcome to the East Coast Red and Gold podcast. I'm Niners Jess, along with Ty Austin, who will be joining us shortly. We got Maddie B, and your girl Bex is inactive tonight. How you doing, Maddie?
Doing all right. Still a little disgusted seeing Oren Burks finally figure out how to play football. But other than that, everything's fine. Everything's great.
I know. I was thinking that same thing. I was like, you sent the text message, and I'm like, I was literally thinking that same thing. Like, really?
It,
Like, Oren Burks, you finally show up.
now you've unlocked the secret to being productive. You couldn't have gotten this together possibly, I don't know, like around February. No, no, now you do it. A-hole. It's fine. It's no big deal. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. By the
So, were
way,
there any surprises from the games this past weekend for you?
no, no, I have not been stunned by this Washington thing because Jaden Daniels is a freak of nature, kids. Like I am, this kid is just next level. I have never seen a quarterback as physically talented who is also so advanced at reading defenses and figuring out things in games. Guys, look at his numbers from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. It is inhumane. Like there are going to be rules against him because he's an actual cheat code. I This Washington team like just came out of nowhere because they happened to get lucky that he was there at two. This is going to be one of those deals where like I think Caleb Williams turns into Hakeem Olajuwon and like Jaden Daniels becomes Michael Jordan because he's that good. He stays healthy, like the sky's the limit for this kid. And he's already showed you what he can do with somewhat of a roster. Imagine what they'd be doing with, say, a healthy Brandon Ayuk as a wide receiver number one, right? Or a wide receiver number two next to Terry McLaurin. So there's a lot of different options and things that can happen and or be done um, with this team. So that one, not a surprise. Wasn't surprised at all by Kansas City, Houston. Wasn't really surprised by Buffalo. It just feels like Buffalo's year to like win it. You know what I mean? Like the draw, everything just kind of breaks right. It just seems like it's their time. So, yeah, no, nothing surprised me. Nothing surprised me at all. And Philadelphia really probably shouldn't have won, but broke three big plays, and that was it. It was kind of like playing the Hail Mary play on Madden on Sega back in the day, and you just throw it each time. Like you'd probably have a 33% completion percentage, which you'd throw for 450 yards and five touchdowns. That's what they did, only they did it with Saquon Barkley. And now they've got a banged up quarterback, a defense that is also banged up, and they're going to be facing a quarterback who's already seen everything they can do with a full defense and threw five touchdowns against them last time they played.
Yeah,
Be
I'm
prepared
not.
for a lot of hail to commanders stuff this weekend is what I'm telling you. I would uh, Bills Commanders, that'd be how it is. It's always, look, the Chiefs are the NWO at this point. Like they've got their own Nick Patrick, they got their own, even ESPN, who I've never in my life like thought I would ever see this. They were pointing out all the missed calls in that game. Oh, here's an offside that was missed. Oh, here's a holding that was missed. Oh, there's the legal contact that was missed. And then Aikman went off on his rant. That wasn't even the biggest thing of the game. They were constantly prodding that Kansas City was getting every call. If that stuff's being mentioned on the broadcast by the production crews that pay for the rights to broadcast these games, it's becoming blatantly obvious and a problem. So I wouldn't be shocked if things even out maybe this weekend. So things have a way to do that when teams are in a position for a three-peat. Those of us who are old enough to remember know that sometimes the football gods just don't want you to three-peat. They just don't want it.
Yeah, so nothing really surprised me either. Um, I'm with you as far as the Washington Commanders. Um, I definitely wanted them to win. Um, I didn't watch too much of the game, but then when I kind of looked at ESPN and saw the final score, and I'm like, wow, That's great, you know. I'm in a suicide pool that you obviously, you pick the winner. If you win, you go on, you lose, you're out. But you obviously can't pick the same team twice, but it gets harder because once the championship games and then the Super Bowl. So I already picked Kansas City. I already picked the Eagles. This week I'm taking the Commanders, hoping that Buffalo beats Kansas City. So then I'll take Buffalo in the Super Bowl.
I
So that's,
mean, that is your best chance, I think. That I think is your best shot. I think that is your best order. Specifically because you can't take Kansas City or Philadelphia. So,
yeah,
because I think going the other way, then you don't have anybody to take in the other one because if it's Buffalo, if it's Buffalo Philly, then that's it. So
true. We got Ty Alston.
Hey,
What's up, Ty?
what's going on? How you doing,
I
friends?
has made it.
I made it.
How you
What
doing?
is happening? I need more light. I'm okay. I'm
I mean,
all right.
they already allegedly have that. The problem is they don't write the rule book properly so that you can do what you're supposed to do to fix things. There's face mask loopholes and other dumb things that I can't even get started on. So
Yeah, we're just talking about the this past weekend's games,
Mm,
and we were talking about the Commanders win, and we're talking about
yeah.
Kansas City, of course, with all the calls going their way. Any
Terrible.
thoughts on the games this past weekend?
I thought they were fun. Thought they were exciting. Um, love Washington advancing. Buffalo and Baltimore was a very good game. That was like the game of the weekend. Two high level QBs going at it. Two very good defenses, et cetera, et cetera. I thought it was a game Baltimore should have won, but they pulled the 49ers and just shot themselves in the foot. Just mistakes, turnovers. They were clearly the better team in the second half, but just couldn't get out of their own way. And it was a shame to see, but still came down to the very end. You know,
Yeah.
still made an exciting game, so that was good. Philly and the Rams, I thought the Rams could win, but kind of the same thing, got in their own way. Um, Philly is just not that impressive to me. They are not kind of like last year, how they were, and then they went up against us, and we kind of exposed the whole operation,
Right.
right?
they're like that RV that you rent and like it's gonna make it to a certain exit before the
Uh,
wheels fall off.
yeah.
And last year the wheels fell off right around exit
Hmm.
75 or so. Well,
Right.
this year the wheels are starting to fall off around exit 110,
There
but
you
they're
go.
definitely falling off, right? And it's not
Yeah.
just all four at once this time. It's literally, oh, there's a hubcap. Oh, there's a
Exactly. Yeah.
wheel. Like,
Yeah.
oh, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Boom.
like
Muffler's
that's
gone. Yeah.
boom, muffler's gone.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's exactly, oh, there goes the axle. So
Hmm.
it's one of those deals where like the bottom's going to drop out. It's just a matter of when. And to me, as I was telling just earlier, like you're facing a guy who's already seen you twice this year. And
Beat me once.
the
Uh-huh.
second time he faced you, he dropped 5 touchdowns on you.
Exactly.
Like two or three of which I believe were in the fourth quarter. Like
Yep.
give me
Yep.
a break. Like he's already figured you out at full
Exactly.
strength when you were at full strength, and now all of a sudden you're at 65%. This dude's at like this
Hmm.
this dude. Jaden Daniels is like Ultron. Like honestly, like
Yeah.
he has
Yeah.
just downloaded the entire internet of football, and every time he plays a game, he figures it out.
Yep.
I heard multiple like members of his team talk about this with the media, and you've seen it in these playoffs. It is absolutely crazy to me. Some of the things that these other teams have thrown at him, and he is just like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
And he has the patience. Okay, if I got to do a 17 play drive,
Yeah.
17 play drive it is,
No problem.
right? No problem. So I've never seen that type of patience from a rookie quarterback. It is insanity. It's not just the physical talent, it's the processing ability.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
processing ability and the ability to make the adjustment in game. Like, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Like,
Hmm.
Purdy was the same way when he came in. Like,
Yeah.
it was the same. The processing ability was unbelievable. Like, the things he saw, the way he would see blitz coming. It was very rare that somebody was coming in unblocked on Purdy where he hadn't seen it. He's
Yeah.
not relying on his center to do that stuff. He's not like CJ Stroud, right? CJ Stroud's
Right.
relying on his center. Like, they're not. And you can tell that. Jaden Daniels is 100% not relying on his center to call out
No.
the stuff.
No.
He's
No.
finding it. He knows where it is. That kid's probably up at 2:30 a.m. watching film.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
he's probably back watching one of the Super Bowls that Vic Fangio did to see if there's a play that he
Hmm.
leans on in big situations, right? Like, that's
Yep.
probably the type of dude that he is. So yeah, it's going to be very special to watch him, and Adam Peters absolutely got it right. So
Well, he
allegedly,
did.
if it was him.
He did win the Heisman Trophy and played for a big school. It wasn't like Jaden Daniels was hard
It
to find,
it shouldn't have been.
Right.
Well, I mean,
It's not like
but
he's a
yet
Brock Purdy. Like,
he
it's
went
different.
two, right? Yet he did not go number one overall, even though it seemed like anytime you heard a player talk about Jaden Daniels, like any SEC player that got interviewed, who was the toughest player you played against, immediately it was Jaden Daniels, right? Like, just craziness. And it's like, why wouldn't he be going number one over Caleb Williams? It's just weird to me. I don't know. Just strange. But
Media hype and all that stuff plays into it. It
craziness.
just is what it is, right?
I mean, it's just one of those deals where it falls in Washington's
Yeah.
favor, right? Just
Yeah.
like it kind of fell in
And
Houston's favor last year, you could say,
hmm
right? I mean, Young's starting to figure it out, but
yeah.
he definitely didn't figure it out as fast as Stroud did.
hmm
So, for whatever the reason is.
And real quick, just think about how the draft goes when it comes to quarterbacks. Out of nowhere, you'll hear some quarterback is the greatest thing ever. And it's like, where'd this dude come from? He played for like North Dakota State South. And
North Dakota A&T, right?
right.
Yeah.
But he's the greatest thing ever. And his stock is just rising. And you're like, how? Where? But he can't miss. You can't miss with this kid. And it's like, where'd he come from? Haven't heard him all year.
The
So
Dan
it's weird in
McGuire
that dynamic.
corollary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan McGuire, of course, Mark's younger brother,
Hmm.
who got drafted by the Seahawks and managed to nothing. We all know this, but the folks in the audience might not know. Like, and there's a quarterback like that every year that just
Yeah.
pops out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Like, gets taken way too early,
Yep.
no matter where they are. We've seen it happen. So,
Yeah.
just because, right? It's a quarterback, and that's what happens.
Exactly.
So I'm real interested in how this draft is going to go, because there seems to be a lot of top shelf talent, and teams are really mixed up about what they want to do. And it seems like the 49ers, in lieu of doing something ridiculous like the last time they were in the situation,
Hmm.
if they just sit there, a guy they need
Oh yeah, we'll be
who
there.
will be really good will absolutely be there.
Yep.
So just wait and be patient, and I think you'll do just fine, right?
Yep. Yep.
And by the way, no, this QB class is not a generational talent,
No,
Billy.
but
That dude was talking about Travis Hunter, but yeah,
yeah.
100%. Like,
No,
yeah,
but that's the quote that you always
yeah,
hear. Like,
yep,
they're talking about somebody you never heard of. But this guy's a generational
generational
talent. And
talent.
you're
Yeah,
like,
oh yeah.
okay then. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tony
So
Mandarich.
I want to bring up a comment from McNiner. He says, considering how bad the 22 and 23 drafts were, should we trust the process? Did get Purdy and possibly winners, but the rest aren't working out. I have to disagree as far as last year's draft.
Hmm.
because we have the likes of Malik Mustafa, Renardo Green, Dominic Pooney, Ricky Pearsall, um, Jacob Cowing from what we've seen of him.
Yep.
I thought last year they killed the draft.
Yep.
What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Matt.
Th-
You take
There were good and bad drafts in the Bill Walsh era too, and
Mm-hmm.
they seem to all fit right around the same lines and the same time frames of Kyle's drafts. And this one is very reminiscent of the 85-ish, the 86-ish sort of draft, like, the ones where you got your Charles Haley's, your John Taylors, things of that nature.
Right.
Um, and this draft has players like that in it. The 85 draft that they had previously kind of reminds me of last year's draft. Got all sorts of guys in there um, that had quality minutes and are going to develop, right? And I don't think they're going to develop to a point where they're going to get so crazy expensive that other teams are going to raid their cupboards.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to be guys that fit in this system and know that their value is probably going to be highest in this system. So
Yeah.
if they stay here, as long as they're, not competing with Houston and Green Bay and the Rams and whoever else is doing whatever they're doing, um, you're going to find guys who fit. And you need those guys. Now you need those guys on the defensive line, right? You need that help so that Leonard Floyd can be a rotational defensive end, not a
Exactly.
primary
Yep.
defensive end, right? Or he can play the elephant position as opposed to
Mhm.
having to play,
Yeah.
the scheme
Straight
that
Or
really
three.
isn't working,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A little bit more flexibility, a little bit more something there, right? But you
Mm-hmm.
need some young just on that right now
Exactly.
to help make that happen. So that's where the next backbone is. And this defensive line draft is one of the better ones in recent history, allegedly. So same thing with the offensive linemen. Quarterbacks not so much, but we're not really worried about quarterbacks, right? So and you know what? I really want that. I want that kid from Arizona State, the running back, so bad. Yeah, I know. Like we need another running back. I just think that dude would absolutely kill it in this system. I think Bobby Turner would absolutely lose his
Yeah.
mind with that dude.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think he would be like his long lost son. So, and
This
just
is going to
him
be the
being
draft for running backs.
Yeah.
this is the draft for
And
almost everything this team needs. Like it came on perfectly.
kind of true. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just get totally lucky. So as long as they, again, don't do anything silly, should be okay, right? Like,
Yeah.
I just worry. Jess said something earlier, and it's made me wonder. Like, there's a lot of, eerie radio silence from this franchise right now. You know what I mean? Almost every other franchise has been in the news cycle. Cowboys, Patriots, Bears, they've all had coaching changes. The Lions continue to stay in the cycle because they're continuing to lose people.
Mm-hmm.
But the 49ers stuff has just not moved at all. Like everybody got fired. Nobody's been replaced yet.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. So it's just there's a stunning lack of urgency, and I just don't know if it's because they're waiting for
Well,
dominoes to fall, and it's just that cut and dry, or it seems almost too obvious. Like it's almost that's what makes it concerning, I think. You know what I mean? Like
That's
the
why,
forest is too quiet. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like I don't even
yeah,
hear a bird chirping. That I find that odd.
that's why before we came on, I said, I don't think it's like as cut and dry as it seems. Like, yes, Robert Sala's our number one,
Mm-hmm.
but I just don't think it, I mean, we could have interviewed others and they're just not being reported.
Right.
I don't think the backup plan is Brandon Staley. Um, and as far as the special teams coordinator, I mean, I don't think it's Nick Sorensen. Um, Mike Silver had reported that he doesn't think so either. But, I kind of wonder what they're doing with the special teams because, we had the interviews and there's been nothing. So something is up,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, I hope I'm right that, Brandon Staley is not the backup plan. um, I don't think he would be because he runs a different style of defense, and I don't think they want to kind of shy away from what we run. What do you think, Ty?
Just real quick on David's thing with 2022 and 2023, I think those were good drafts. I think a lot of those players fell victim to the injury doghouse thing that just happens with our team. If you can go down the line and look at all of them, Drake Jackson, Danny Gray, Samuel Womack, Kalia Davis, Tariq Castro Fields, all of them, just up and down. Darrell Luter Jr., Robert Bill
Thomas.
for a little bit. Yeah. D. Winters just never got on the field. Jalen Graham. It just goes up and down. I think this year, because of injuries to starters, they had to play these young guys. So we got to see them and they shine. And it's like, if you play the young guys, perhaps they'll do something for you. So hopefully they learn from this and use that kind of mentality going forward. And we need to. We got to start playing these young guys and developing them.
I think if we have another draft like last year, I think we'll be cooking.
Yeah. And just like we wouldn't even have known that we had such a good draft if those guys didn't get on the field, though. It's like we got to see them play extensively. And it was like, holy crap, he's a player. That was a good pick. Oh, he's a player. That's a good pick. He's a player. That's a good pick. And you look at a D. Winters who didn't play at all last year, but got to play some this year, and you're like, okay, this kid's running around with some thump. He's starting to get it. He's looking like a player. Get them on the field. That's all I'm saying. Get them on the field. See what they got. If they can't cut it, then you let them go. Like, we'd be killing it right now if we still had Samuel Womack III, who's like killing it in Indy. It's like, why did we let him go?
Almost all these guys outside of Trey Sermon, who clearly had no idea what he was doing on a football field anywhere. He had the awareness of a doorknob, I swear.
Yeah.
Almost all of them, like when they get picked up and they go other places and they get run, they end up being productive members, even if they just stay on special teams for a few years somewhere.
Yeah.
This league is peppered with ex-49ers. Because the talent was there. It wasn't due to talent, it was due to circumstance, typically. Like I don't blame it on any of the coaching staffs or anything like that. Sometimes things don't work out. You pull your hamstring, it doesn't matter who the coaching staff is. They can't use you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And as far as the coordinators, I think, I know John Lynch specifically likes to be tight-lipped about everything. He doesn't like to tell nobody nothing until he's ready to make it happen. And maybe he's telling Kyle to do the same thing. Like, Robert Saleh was the obvious number one pick, and it's known, so there's like no big secret. But like behind him, we just don't know. And they could be kicking the tires, making phone calls, doing whatever. Like, remember, they reached out to Bill Belichick, and we didn't find out about that till a full season or two later, whenever that was.
We found out about that at the beginning of camp, I believe.
Same thing with Steve Spagnuolo.
Right. So this is how they operate. Just because they're not in your face, and people like Mike Florio and others get upset about them, and because they're not getting any info, doesn't mean they aren't doing nothing. So we do kind of have to trust the process and say they got things working in the background.
So what are your thoughts on McNiner's comment, pretty much saying that Saleh doesn't want to be a 49er?
We don't know that.
I don't know. Maybe. If he didn't want to be a 49er, why would he take the interview to be a defensive coordinator before he took the head coach interview for Jacksonville?
Wait, he's saying, are you trying to say like Saleh picked Zach Wilson just to spite us or something? He had the second pick in the draft, and Zach Wilson was the second best quarterback looking in the draft. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
and he
there.
wasn't the
Like,
general manager. He
yeah,
also wasn't the
yeah,
general manager for
exactly.
that
He ain't
team.
the GM.
That was Joe Douglas making that
Right.
trade, that
That was
pick.
Joe
So
making all that happen.
didn't
So he
trade
had
us
nothing to
Sam
do with
Darnold
that.
in 20. Good. Why
But
would they have
Kyle,
wanted Sam Darnold in
yeah,
2021? Why are we trading more draft picks for another quarterback? What are we doing?
yeah. And Kyle
That's
wanted
the
Sam
last thing
before
they need.
that. Like Kyle
Yeah.
was enamored with Sam before that. So that's nothing
Sam
to do with
Darnold needed a
Robert Sala.
rebound, needed some
Right.
rebound time with another
Yeah.
team before coming to us. Like he needed to be desperate out on the street. Like this is like Doctor Strange going to Kamertage. Okay, like he's
Yeah.
banging on the door. We let him in. We set him up, fix him up, send him out into the world. Okay, that's exactly what happened with Sam Darnold.
Mhm.
What happened after that is just because he reached his ceiling. So.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. And he didn't block. The Jets organization blocked Ulbrich from leaving in
Yeah.
2023. Like that, Saleh could have been involved in that, I'm sure. But like, I'm sure he didn't want to lose the defensive coordinator because the dude was trying to keep his job in New York. So yeah, I would probably not want my defensive coordinator going to be someone else's defensive coordinator when I'm trying to keep my job.
Yeah.
So yeah. Again, if he didn't want to be a Niner, I don't think he would have taken that. I don't think he would have wasted everybody's time on that.
Right.
And Kylie says, I heard Pete Carroll's name mentioned as a possible DC candidate.
That would
Yeah,
be amazing, but probably won't happen because Pete Carroll's going to be the Raiders head coach.
Wait a minute. Why would it be amazing? Tell me that.
I just not amazing from like a strategic standpoint or anything like that, but I mean just the talking points, Ty. Like there's so many varying talking points of like things you could do, like, oh, thank God he's not calling the offensive plays, like whatever it is. Like there's so many things that could be spoken of. So, you know,
I
I
mean,
just
a lot of people are saying like he'll bring the energy, because we've lacked like energy from the coach the past 2 seasons.
um One, there was internal discussions. Like, should we, do we, blah, blah, blah. I don't know who heard that. Like, we just talked about John and being tight-lipped and not leaking anything. So,
That was from Tim Kawakami.
and who do you get it from?
allegedly
Hmm?
he's friendly with Jed, but I don't
Okay,
know. I Who knows, right?
who knows? All right, but when was the last time good old Tricky Pete called the defense?
Yeah, because he always had defensive coordinators in, well, USC and
Roro,
Seattle.
Roro,
So yeah, like
and
I'm pretty sure the last time he called a defense was when he did it for us in '95.
what year was that?
I believe that was 1995, Ty.
Hold on, let me check my Palm Pilot and do some math.
That was the year after we won the Super Bowl last.
30 years ago?
Correct.
He, oh,
Correct.
oh,
Long time
oh,
ago.
It's been a
oh,
hot minute.
yeah, oh, yeah. Mhm.
Defense seems to have changed a little in the last 30 years.
Offenses have changed too, some now.
Offensive, a little, yeah. Our special teams still terrible, however. So
Like,
They
be
said till this
careful
point,
what you
3
wish
weeks after
for.
the season, they haven't gotten any better.
I know, right? Actually, they
every
might have
statistic
improved.
they
True,
I
but we
posted
still don't
earlier
have a coach.
I posted earlier this week that ChatGPT could have run it the last 2 years and like probably gotten better results. Like
There you
honestly,
go.
you could have just did like, do I return this? No. Do I return this? No. Just don't. If you don't return anything, like you'll never get called for holding.
Right.
That would be step number one. Okay. And then you just
Right.
focus on the kicking game and like actually make your kicker feel, I don't know, confident and ready to do things
Mhm.
as opposed to scared of cheerleaders who might be 10 yards away from him.
Leon says they could pay Pete in Trident layers, save Jet some money.
I think that'd be a salary cap like thing. I think that'd be like a circumference. Oh, actually, no, coaches aren't on the cap. That's fine. It'd be good.
There's not enough gum in Santa Clara, I tell you.
No, I think that's the one thing that I wouldn't be able to get past. I mean, with Uncle Sherm, I was just kind of like, okay, he's a Niner, let all the
Right.
other things go. But with Pete, like I don't know.
Carroll, yeah, no, Carroll did leave in 96 because he took over the Patriots in 97.
Yeah.
Yes.
He did
Yeah.
97, 98,
96 was last year.
99.
Yeah.
Yeah, 96 was last year. So that'd be 29 years. Pardon me.
Yep.
Changes the whole dynamic. If it was 30 years, absolutely not. 29 years, let's let him do it.
Let's make an exception. 29 years.
You just get into the wire, buddy.
I know, right? You just made it like that much.
Let's see. David McNiner, are the 49ers waiting on Salah because that's a bad move? Why is that a bad move?
It's not a bad move. Like he's clearly their number
Tell
one
us
choice.
why, David.
And it's like, dude, we want you. You're the best man for the job. Let's sit back and wait on it. Let's not be rash. Because you never know. You just never know. Right?
I mean,
You never know
Robert
what may
Saleh
happen.
has the experience. He's been with us before.
Mm-hmm.
He can take care of the defense. Kyle doesn't have to micromanage. Kyle could focus on the offense. There's a lot of upside to Robert Saleh coming back. Kelly says Gus Bradley is still out there also. There's still options. Yeah, I mean, I think I had said in a group text that I wouldn't be surprised if it was Gus Bradley. That's why I said earlier it doesn't seem so cut and dry. Like Robert Saleh's our number one, but Brandon Staley I doubt is our plan B.
Yeah, I think he's an option if it all goes to hell because he's in the building, but they have other options out there.
Walsh gave Pete his start. Don't forget that history.
Indeed.
McNiner says other candidates finding their homes while the 49ers wait. There's no like timetable though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is a timetable, but there isn't. Like we're not in like any rush.
Yeah.
To fill the roles right now. What do you guys think?
I don't think so. I think they want to get it right instead of rushing and doing something rash. They want to make sure they do it right. And like I honestly feel that Kyle and John remember the mistake they made at quarterback when they rushed it. Because remember, their plan all along was to get Kirk Cousins after that first season. And they were going to wait and be patient and ride the season out. And in free agency, get Kirk. And then they got impatient and got anxious. And Kyle called up Bill Belichick, and Bill hit him with the okie doke. Oh, I got a player for you. Oh, only cost you a second. There you go. What happened to the Kirk plan? Kirk was the plan all along, and you panic and went elsewhere. It didn't work out. So this time they're like, let's be patient. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being patient. And it's like we said, I'm pretty sure they got their ducks in a row. Like, okay, we have to consider if this doesn't work, what do we do next? And just because they aren't blurting it out to the media doesn't mean they aren't doing nothing.
Agreed. So Saleh has a second interview with the Jaguars on Friday. Liam Cohen backed out. Trent Baalke is gone from Jacksonville. It's about time.
And give him a month before he has his own podcast.
Oh, geez. Who's going to listen to that?
I was just going to say, I don't know who would listen to that.
I don't care.
Welcome to the Trent Baalke Ball.
Oh boy, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you. I am telling you.
Yeah, I don't know who would listen to that.
I don't see him being hired again to do that anytime soon. So what else is he going to do? Right?
They also,
He's going to
somebody said today
join
that
Tannenbaum on 33rd team.
Yeah.
I mean, considering that he was part of like 5 firings, like that he's burned a lot of bridges. So I highly doubt that he'll be back in the league anytime soon.
How
Yeah.
he was able to survive in any sort of way, shape, or form after what happened with Jim Harbaugh, when it
Yeah.
was absolutely, utterly clear to everyone in the world who was the cause of that
Yeah.
and who was the person to not side with, for the good of the organization. And instead, they did the exact opposite. And it only set the franchise back 4 years. So, say what you will, right? So,
Yep.
Tony says if
uh,
Balky has a podcast, will Harbaugh be interviewed asking for a friend?
I
He'd be
guess
his
not.
first guest.
I
That would be
guess.
an explosive episode. You know that.
Yeah, it would. Um, so Ben Johnson went to the Bears. That
Yep.
was everybody's pick to replace Kyle Shanahan. Um,
Well, apparently
Dennis
he would have come here
Allen.
and worked with John Lynch because he's happy to go work with Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren. I'm just joking. There's no way we would have done that. But like seriously, like you could have just swapped them out. You swapped out offensive
Mhm.
minds for offensive minds.
And I know Dennis Allen seems to be linked to Ben Johnson and the Bears, but nothing has happened there yet either.
Yeah, nothing concrete. Hasn't been an official hire yet.
Yeah. Bones
Yeah.
Fossil went to the Titans.
Yep.
Lou Anarumo went to the Colts.
Hmm.
I know Maddie was Team Lou.
Yep.
Al
The DC.
Golden from Notre Dame went to Cincy.
Yeah.
That was a natural fit. He's had a home in Cincinnati since 2021, back when he was
Oh,
Bengals
really?
linebackers coach. So
Okay.
that absolutely makes sense. And he was able to kind of add a little shine to his star, I guess you could say. And it made it a perfect fit for him to leave Notre Dame to go there. Do I
Yeah.
think? I don't know. I don't think he's going to be any better than Louis Anarumo. Like, unless you're going to give him more players. That was a problem there.
Yeah.
That was not a scheme problem. That was a, can we get this guy some freaking players to coach problem. So if they fix that, great. If not, well, good luck, Al. College will be waiting for you again.
Hmm.
He says that Bulky should have been fired after drafting Tank Carradine and AJ Jenkins.
Oh,
I,
don't
I was
even.
I
That
was
was
joking.
terrible.
Yeah, I was joking earlier that kids today won't understand the pain of drafting a guy with an ACL tear every year.
Every year.
Like, why
Talk,
though? Like, I
talk
don't
about
get it.
wasting picks. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that
He,
Jonathan Brooks pick worked out
Oh yeah.
gangbusters for Carolina, right? Like absolutely tremendous. Waited all year for him, and then he ended up re-injuring himself.
Uh-huh.
And then now Chuba Hubbard has been signed to a Christian McCaffrey-esque deal. So you just blew a number one pick on a dude who's going to do nothing for you, and you ended up keeping his incumbent.
I wonder where the
Hey,
Niners would
Um,
be if Bulky didn't draft all those ACL injured players.
who knows who he would have drafted for
yeah.
health? Like we're giving him way too much credit. Like he
Right.
True.
remember
Exactly.
That's
he
true.
passed guys. He passed on Aiden Hutchinson at one because he thought he'd reached his
Yep.
ceiling. So that's all I have for you there. Trevon Walker's been great, but he should not have been taken over Aiden Hutchinson. And it was obvious to anyone who had ever watched college football, high school football, Pop Warner football, um, Nerf football, Tecmo Super Bowl being streamed through a Nintendo game. Probably anyone that was the case. And he still decided to go the way he did. And you saw what a difference Aiden Hutchinson made this past weekend. Because I promise you, Washington probably would not have been as successful with Aiden Hutchinson on the field than the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
So, Maddie, what is your prediction as far as defensive coordinator and special teams?
I am just going to be prone to the worst. So, whoever the absolute worst possible candidate is for each job, I assume that's who will get it. Okay,
Mhm.
until something other goes that way. Otherwise, that's the case. Because in recent history, I wasn't necessarily Team Steve Wilkes, but boy, oh boy, when you want to step back and look at the big picture, I really would have loved to have Steve Wilkes as the defensive coordinator last year over Nick Sorensen. I think he could have made a lot more chicken salad out of the chicken shit that was provided. And that's, whether he was in the booth or on the field, I don't really give a flying rat's ass. But that wasn't the case. They got rid of him, and it seemed like, as Ty said, they really swung for the fences. First we'd go after Belichick, then we'd do this, then we'd do that. And it's like, oh, okay, let's pretend we're happy about Nick Sorensen, right? And it just feels like, with the way everything is going and the way the musical chairs are going, it feels like that's what's going to happen again. Oh, well, they've interviewed Salah, right? They did the interview last week, and it seemed like it was probably going to be like a foregone conclusion. And now he's going in for his interview with the Jaguars, and that's great. So the other
Yeah.
thing is that really gets me about this is, like, if he's successful this year, like if this hits the way we expect it to, and he gets his defense back on top, and the 49ers win a Super Bowl this year, or even if they don't win a Super Bowl this year, let's say they play really well and just come up short, something happens. You don't think that they're going to have to find a new defensive coordinator next year? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to be right on the cycles again if this all goes well. And if it doesn't, um, well, then it didn't go very well, and we're going to want him gone anyways. So that's my concern. What's the other long-term play? Is there going to be someone underneath him to develop?
Mhm.
Um, is there someone out there that I really like what New England did with Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator? A lot of the people up here are whining and complaining about it because they used to hate the McDaniels play calling for years.
Uh-huh.
But what's the best thing for a young quarterback? Consistency and continuity, correct?
Hmm.
Nobody's going to be beating down Josh McDaniels' door to go be a head coach ever again,
I should
correct?
hope not.
That
Oh
is
my
never
God.
happen. That is never happening. Okay. So now, what typically teams are trying to do right now is pair up the young offense, or the new, fresh, offensive-minded head coach. The Walsh, the Mike Shanahan, with the Montana, the Elway,
Yeah.
the Holmgren, the
Young QB.
Favre, the
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. Okay. What the Patriots have now done is found a solid disciplinarian, defensive-minded head coach who really isn't going to have to touch the offense at all unless he really wants to, because he's going to have
Yeah.
continuity there, and a guy who already has a house there. His family already lives in the area. They love it there. He's won a bunch of Super Bowl rings as an offensive coordinator and can do no wrong, and can probably do that job for the next 10 to 15 years unfettered, right? That's the sort of thing I want for this team. That's the sort of thing that I want for Brock, right? So as long as he's got that with Kyle,
Mhm.
and you know then great, right? But the problem is Kubiak's going to get good, right? And as this offense goes, guess what's going to happen? Kubiak's going to get picked off and go somewhere else. And then he's going to have to do that whole thing again. So you have to have Kyle, but then he's got to be introduced to somebody every year. Maybe it's going to be Brian Greasy. By the way, shout out Brian Greasy, not taking a Jets interview, staying here.
There you go. That's
Represent.
right.
Bang, bang, Brian Greasy. We're impressed. Um,
Yeah, I thought
we
that
got to
was
get
funny when I heard
we
that.
got we got to give the
Yeah.
we got to give those we got to give props in
Yep.
scenarios like that. So you clearly want to be on the team. No, thank you. I would rather be a position coach and go be your head coach. Thank you. Thank you. That
Uh-huh.
takes a level of respect that you know I have to throw out there. So, but that continuity is important. And I don't think we're going to have that with Salah. So we're just going to be right back here doing this whole thing again. So what is the backup plan either way. What is the backup plan if this thing pans out and he's gone after next year? And what's the backup plan if he never even makes it back because he's announced as the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yeah, but you know what? Even if it's Robert Saleh and like he's gone next year because we do really well, like that goes for anybody in that position.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I like to
Like,
get plucked. Yeah,
Maybe, but like I don't see Gus Bradley getting a head coaching job if he does really well in that position, right? Like I'm not saying I'm not saying settle for someone, but what I'm saying is get the best possible person that's going to give you the
well,
consistency that you need. Like I don't it's like the Juan Soto corollary, right? You trade 4 or 5, 6 different guys for Juan Soto, you get to the World Series, but you don't win it. And now
yeah,
Juan Soto's gone
he
and
jumped
you've got a
ship. Yeah,
compensatory draft pick, right? That's it. That's all you've got. So it's just
yeah.
one of those deals. If we're yeah, and yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's people
Well,
that could be done. You know what I mean? And there's people that'll probably fall behind it, but you've already lost a guy that would have been a natural fit in Ulbrich because he never even got an interview. He was a hot candidate last year, and he doesn't even get an interview this year.
yeah.
I find that odd too.
not
So
that we know of.
I think we
they're
know it.
supposed to be
Right.
announced. Interview
Supposedly
official interviews are supposed to be announced. Let's put it that way. The
official.
Sala one
Right.
was. So
But
yeah.
the 49ers like to have phone calls and not tell anybody. So
Those
he's
are
like, hey,
unofficial phone
we
calls. I'm
we
saying an
we, we were
actual
just
interview,
we were
right?
just talking about summertime
Yeah.
and coaching,
Mhm.
but
We
it
were
wasn't
talking
nothing
about
wrong with
beard
that.
conditioning. It was, yeah, that's
Exactly.
what we do. That's what we do here.
And then you find out a year later, yeah, we did ask him if he was interested. Oh, really?
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Like
Um,
Niner wants to know where Salah lives in the off season. Have
in his
no
house.
idea.
No,
Right.
do.
In his
What didn't matter.
house,
um,
big house.
I'm gonna guess a lot of people aren't maintaining homes in the Bay Area. That's it when they're not living here, gang.
well,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
expensive. I'll
guess
tell you that much. Yeah.
they're not keeping that as a
Um,
backup home.
yeah.
They're probably selling that as soon as they can.
I don't think it's dire straits. I think we're okay. I think, it's Salah. If it's not him, they got a plan. If Salah comes, though, I don't think he'll be that hot of a commodity next season. Because even the Jaguars having to give him a second interview raises an eyebrow. Because normally, if you want a guy and you're sure, you hire him. You call him up. You offer him a deal. When you're unsure is when you have to take that second look.
Yeah.
And I was talking with Mariah about this. I was like, you know how you go shopping and you see something and you're like, I kind of like it, and you're unsure, you put it down. And then you're like, let me go back and take a second look because you're unsure. This is kind of
Right.
what the vibe I'm getting from them. Plus, seeing as how really they I feel that they wanted an offensive coach. Like they wanted Ben Johnson, they wanted Cohen from the Bucks to kind of school up Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you just paid him $200 million. You want a coach to come in that's going to get the best out of him, and all these conversations of who's one of the best young QBs in the league. He's mentioned because he was a number one pick, but he's not really mentioned. He's not really in the conversation. It's time to try to get him in the conversation so he can elevate your franchise. So I'm thinking offense is the way to go. Like, do we really want to go defense? Well,
Does Salah have a really good offensive-minded
you know,
assistant
and that's the
coordinator,
thing.
a coordinator to come with him,
We don't
right?
know. We don't know.
Yeah. Who
It's like
knows?
who would that
Did
guy be?
did he have one in New York?
Not really.
No, I
And
forget
then
who was the one in New York.
So you had
um,
Hackett to start. Oh no, you had Hackett when you
no, he
wanted to
was
get
second.
Rodgers there. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who was the guy to start? Was it Schottenheimer or was it a LaFleur?
Um,
It was a LaFleur.
it was
I believe it
LaFleur.
was
Yeah.
Mike LaFleur, right?
Yeah, it was Mike.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. It was Mike before him, and then Rogers came,
And
and he
that's
wanted
when it
his own
became him.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah, and then it became Hackett. It became Hackett,
right,
Paul Hackett's kid, and
right. They were,
then they went Todd Downing,
yes,
who
they were,
lost his job in Tennessee because of the OUIs. Yes.
yeah. But even
Yep.
with LaFleur, they were always bottom of the league in offense. And I understand, the quarterback situation had a lot to do with that. Um, but what can you do?
And Ty, to your point of an offensive minded coach, Mike Silver did tweet out earlier to watch out for Joe Brady from the Bills and Kellen
Hmm.
Moore from the Eagles,
Yeah,
and they're both
they,
offensive
they
minded.
right, and they've been getting interviews and such, and like this could be a case where they're still in the playoffs and Jacksonville's just waiting,
Kellen Moore
just
makes a
waiting.
lot of sense in that scenario,
Hmm.
just because I don't expect the Eagles to make it through this weekend. So it
Me
could be
neither.
like a Ben
Yeah.
Johnson deal. Like he's out of the
But,
playoffs on he's out of the
hmm.
playoffs on Sunday and he's hired on Tuesday and he's doing a press conference
Exactly.
on Wednesday. Right.
Exactly. They're
So
they're just waiting for him to be free.
guys, I still can't believe
Then
the
it's like,
Spagnolo's not getting more love. Like I would hire that guy in a second to coach my team. Um, even if only it screws Kansas City up a little bit, right? Like, because
yeah, if you're in that.
I'm sure Spagnuolo has a chance to get some really good, has a couple of few offensive minds that have hung around with Andy Reid's that might know what they're doing offensively in the correct situation, and he can clearly coach up a defense.
Right.
So that's a guy that I'm really surprised hasn't been given another shot yet, and it hasn't been hanging around for anything. Like if I were the Raiders, I would have hired Spagnuolo yesterday. Get him
Hmm.
out of there. Get him out of there. What are you going? What are you dicking around with Pete Carroll for? Get Spagnuolo out of Kansas City. That defense is the only thing keeping them up right now. Make them lean on their
Hmm.
offense again and see how it goes for them. I bet it
Yeah.
doesn't go quite as well as they want it to.
So, in watching the playoffs, do you guys think that the Niners aren't far off from being a top team again next season?
Hell
We
no.
we got to see what the Rams did the other day, right? And if you compare our team this year to the Rams team this year and the two times they met, like both of those games very easily could have been won by us, right? They
Easy.
weren't. So, and you could tell if the Rams again didn't beat themselves, and it becomes are you going to beat yourself league or not at this point, right?
Hmm.
And that's really what is happening with a lot of these teams. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
beating yourself, or beating yourself. I've seen a lot of bad calls, and then the next play is when the bad play happens because you're mad about the call or whatever else. Well,
Dallas is going after Schottenheimer.
yeah. That's a wrap on Kellen
Oh
Moore.
yeah.
Kellen Moore and Dallas isn't gonna. Schottenheimer is gonna be the thing,
Yeah.
and that's being done to keep Dak happy, which is
And
surprising
then,
because I really thought they were going to do that Sanders deal, but it's got to be really tough to trade. Uh, I don't know who the hell would have the salary cap room to take on Dak's cap hit, and I don't know what the cap hit would be for them. So,
Gotta be big. They just signed him to that contract.
well, it's a
Those
dead
numbers are
cap of
still
10.
high.
It's a dead
So
cap of 104, but I don't
up
know
there
what it
though.
is. You and I both know, like it's one of those.
Hmm.
We all know, like the
Yeah.
dead cap if they cut him isn't the same amount as a team that's going to try to take him on. So,
Right.
and yeah, we absolutely do. It's at this point, it's a wait and see. And probably by this time next week, there will be a defensive coordinator hired. And I'm willing to bet there's probably a special teams coordinator hired as well, probably around that time frame. So we
yeah,
still
I
got
can
our
see
running
them
backs
doing it
coach.
at
We
the
still
same
got our
time.
defensive line coach. We still got our offensive line coach. Like,
Yeah. The
So if you're
only
in need of custom Niners gear, go over to faithfulgear209.com, made for the faithful by the faithful. Um, so in sticking with the thumbnail, it was titled Playmakers. The draft is coming up in April. It'll be here before you know it. Um, Free agency before that. Would you say that now you see the playmakers we have? on offense, but would you say that that's more important than taking care of the trenches, the offensive line, defensive line? Ty?
No, you got to
Why
take
not?
care of the trenches. Just refer to Super Bowl, the 2020 Super Bowl, when remember it was the Bucks versus the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs' offensive line was decimated, right? And Patrick Mahomes was running for his life the whole game. The Bucks D line just teed off, right? It was a terrible game to watch because they had no chance.
It
The
was
Chiefs had
open
no.
season.
Yeah,
None.
it was open
And he was on
season.
one leg, remember?
Yeah,
Which made
even
it even
still,
worse.
even if he had two good legs,
Oh
it
no,
wouldn't have
no.
mattered because they were coming through like gangbusters. So you got to take care of the line, and even if the line is fairly healthy, you need quality players there. So if you're a team, especially with our team, I'm talking specifically about the 49ers now, our skill positions are wrapped. We got skill positions, players, playmakers up the wazoo. They're called the Avengers for a reason because we got so many and they do different things and you can swap them in and out and you're still good. So now it's time to take care of the trenches. And if you go back and you basically watch the previous two Super Bowls that we did not win, it ultimately came down to the trenches and in the fourth quarter and how the trenches started to get dominated a little bit. And it's like, all right, we got to shore it up.
Maddie?
Not just those two Super Bowls, the two NFC title games that were lost too. Like
Yeah, yeah, good call. Good
um,
call.
especially late in those games. I mean, even
Yeah,
I know there was no quarterback in the Philadelphia game, and yeah, Devontae Smith didn't catch the first pass of the game.
right.
But that 49ers defense, for as lauded as it was absolutely able to keep them in the game if they needed
As long as they could. Yep.
to make it happen, right? To
Mhm.
survive and advance. And they absolutely couldn't. That was kind of the first time I'm like, wait a minute. There's some really good numbers here, but man, it seems like they never get off the field on third down. They just never get off the field on third down. I never feel confident on third and long. It seems like they'll get a sack on second down, and you're like, yeah, they got that sack on second down. And then here comes third down, and it's either illegal contact, defensive holding, pass interference, or they just let up a big play, and you're like,
They just that's the one.
huh?
It's third
You're
and
supposed to
19,
be
and the team
dominant.
is 21. And you're like,
In this metric you're this, in this metric you're this, in this metric you're this, and those numbers finally decreased. And this year it caught up between all the injuries and everything else. It caught up. The loss of Dre Greenlaw, it caught up. Everything this year caught up. All of the extra snaps that this team took over the last few years caught up. So yeah, the trenches have got to be redone, and they've got to be redone badly. And also, every bad offensive play the last three yeah, I'd say every bad offensive play of the last few seasons has been caused by our offensive line giving up the ghost the absolute wrong time. Whether it was Super Bowl, whether it was the first Super Bowl against the Chiefs, the second Super Bowl against the Chiefs,
yeah,
you gotta get somebody on that line that can block Chris Jones. Okay,
please, just
so
get in
you
front of them.
just has to like. And players like that, right? Like you need to
Uh-huh.
be able to stop those players.
Yeah.
And it can't just be Trent Williams and his band of merry men, right? Now you've got Trent Williams, you've got Dom Pooney. Now let's get a badass center in there. Like honestly,
Hmm.
the center position to me hasn't been that sharp since Alex Mack left, to be quite honest with you.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever adequately replaced him. They
No.
just thought they could get by, which
Yeah.
I found amazing, but it always shows
They,
up at
yeah.
the
They were.
worst possible
I
times.
think they were banking on him returning, and he didn't, and they were like, shite, and never filled that position.
After the
Like you
21 season,
said.
that was it. 22,
Yeah.
23, 24. We're going on 3 years now.
Hmm.
It's like,
Yep.
okay. Still haven't gotten up to that level.
I don't see them fixing the offensive line through free agency.
No, that's going to
No,
have to be a draft
unless,
thing.
well,
Well, somebody like gets cut and is amazing, right? Or just
Unless
is.
they go
people.
after Dahlman.
Yeah, I was just about to say people have been wanting. I keep wanting to say Chris Dahlman. That's his dad, Drew Dahlman. I'm old school, y'all. I'm old school. Chris Dahlman. Played for us for a number of years, pretty darn good. But his son, yeah, Drew, seems to be everyone's man crush at center. I'm a guy that comes from good stock, clearly, and is playing very well. Like, let's get a young center in here that will be here for years to come, and we don't have to worry about center anymore. So I'm a fan of that. Let's do that all the way, you know. And then it's just left guard and right tackle. Really, if we can shore those up somehow, and I think there's ways. We got a guy that we just need to re-sign at left guard and right tackle. Look for that upgrade. Yeah, that's David's man crush for sure. He's talked to me about it. We talked about it.
So Kali wants to know, do you guys think John and Kyle will trade back at pick 11? Well, we have what, 10 picks right
We got
now?
10. Yeah.
I think that's always a possibility, regardless of where you're at. You know,
It
I
depends
do
on what they think of this year's draft, probably, as opposed to like the next year's draft. Like,
right.
do they have 10 roster spots up for grabs this year?
Pretty sure they do. We got a
Yeah.
number of free agents out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some holes to fill. So
I actually, to answer the question, I don't see them trading back.
yeah, I don't think so. I think it's their opportunity to get one of these trench players, a good one, who can possibly be a day one starter or day one backup. Like I'm talking like immediate in the rotation backup. And you can't pass that up. You can't pass it up. It's seeing how important the trenches are, and you know they are, especially on defensive line. You know John Lynch loves defensive line.
Mhm.
He'll go after him all day, every day. So if there's a guy out there he likes, he's going to go get him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and that's the
actually
thing.
think,
If we do trade back, it's not going to be far.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's going to be like how we duped Chicago a few years back,
yep.
and we traded
And they
one
took
spot.
Mitch Trubisky.
Yep, we traded back one spot.
And then
That's what you're going to get.
And then we ended up duping ourselves because we took Solomon Thomas over Patrick Mahomes because we didn't bother scouting him at all because we were just going to get Kirk Cousins. And then the
Woulda, coulda,
Patriots
shoulda.
called.
Here we
That was the
are.
plan.
Here we are, right?
It was the plan. And they screwed up the
That was the
plan.
plan.
You
And
see what
then
I
the
mean?
Patriots called.
When you rush and don't stick to the plan.
Someone put this perfectly good quarterback out on the street and they only won a second round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Mom, can we take it home? That's
Yep.
exactly what it seems like happened in that scenario.
Yep.
So as far as playmakers and trenches go, I think we need a receiver, but we get that in free agency because this is not the draft for wide receivers this year.
Wait, why do you think we need a receiver?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like somebody to take top off, like Tutu Atwell.
What, you think they're going to
No.
throw it to him? They had that. His name was Danny Gray, and they refused to use him. Like,
Yeah, but
No.
like
Pearsall has deep speed, and don't forget Jacob Cowling has deep speed. We've seen Jacob Cowling take the top off the defense. He just needs the opportunity.
But according
me a
to
t-
Kyle, like as far as playbook goes and stuff like that, he wasn't, I don't know if he'll
You
be
got to
in the
get him on the
doghouse.
field to learn the playbook.
That's
Yeah.
true.
That's part
He
of
might
that
be
true.
playing a
he
guy
might be
dynamic.
one of those guys that learns by doing, right? And like if you're not going to give those guys the snaps and they're not book learning, like that's sometimes something that I wonder, like, are they really adapting their learning and things Are they getting the guys in to fit the system, or are they fixing the system to fit the guys? Right? That just genuinely, because you're never going to get everybody that's going to hit all the same functions that you really want.
Hmm.
Like, to me, you want to be able to adapt that a little bit. I think there are times that that doesn't happen, which is why guys wash out of here so quickly, right?
Yeah,
Like, I just think guys wash out of here quickly because they don't have patience for it. They really don't. Like, when they do have patience with a guy, he
yeah,
usually ends up panning out. But when they don't,
yeah, yeah. Doghouse, and you never see him. Yeah,
gone. Just like you said earlier, it's like that's it.
yeah. But I think it's they want guys to fit the system. That's why they got Ricky Pearsall and the Danny Gray, guys who are good route runners, have speed, good hands. Okay, Kyle can work with that. I can use you in XYZ. Just got to give him opportunity, right? Like, look, for weeks we were saying, oh, Ricky Pearsall isn't catching anything. He's just out there running, getting cardio, or his number isn't getting called, right? He's the low man on a totem pole. Then here at the end of the season, it's like, all right, let me give this guy opportunity. Let me call his number. Oh, all of a sudden he's got 100 yards and a touchdown. And the next game he's got 100 yards and a touchdown. And everybody's like, Ricky Pearsall looks darn good. Well, you called his number. And even Jacob Cowing, when he played Arizona, he was giving some ops. He was doing kind of more gadget stuff, running the end arounds and things like that, but he still made plays. It was like, all right, these guys can work, but they need to get the reps and get the opportunities, and their number needs to be called. And unfortunately, right now they're at the low end of the totem pole because you still got Kittle, Devo. When Ayuk comes back, he's there. CMC will be back. So the pecking order is tough.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the playmakers, but I think that, the trenches are kind of more important. Brock had an okay year, but I think that he'd be more on top of his game if we had a better offensive line. Because, you look at the top teams in the league, look at the Lions, their offensive line, you know.
I
So
don't think
I,
Jared Goff is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy yet. If you look at the stats
Like,
this year, the
well,
stats were there, right? Like, so I think you're 100% correct. Like, it's just one of those deals. His line was better. You saw the numbers. You saw the difference.
David McNiner says that he thinks that we go D line with number 11th pick. I think so too. I don't think we go offensive tackle or offensive guard and, offensive lineman at pick 11. I think we go D lineman.
yeah, it's a thing where we need both, right? So it's just a matter of what's the best player there that fits our scheme that we can go with. Like, as long as the trenches are addressed,
Yeah,
I
don't
think
go.
we'll be happy either way.
Mhm.
Don't pick a punter.
Or a kicker.
Exactly.
Terradome says if you're drafting quote unquote good route runners and you're 31st in the league at separation, there's a problem with your passing play design versus man coverage. Who is the play designer?
I don't like that stat. I hear what he's saying. I got you. I don't like that stat because it only measures when the ball is thrown to you. So if I'm on the other side of the field and I get absolutely wide open, but the ball isn't thrown my way, I don't get calculated in that. So it's kind of a toss up.
Terradome also says it's like getting a bunch of NASCAR drivers year after year, but they're driving a gremlin.
What's wrong with a gremlin, brother? I got a gremlin. I thought we was friends. Man, no.
Crazy Juice says there's a wide receiver from San Jose State who I think we can get with one of our later round picks.
I
More
think we should be
receivers.
looking at any LSU wide receivers first. I think that's the first place to look.
wide receiver you, right? Yeah. Like,
And then
man.
if there's nobody left from LSU, you can start looking around at other places. But until that point, LSU first, everyone else second. Same thing with Iowa tight ends. And whatever we do this year, for the love of God, if we don't upgrade from Eric Saubert, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
Same.
Lose
Same.
my
And
mind.
that's the thing. There's like positions where, okay, we can get by, but we need an upgrade.
Bad.
We need to upgrade. Let me put it that way. And like tight end two, we need to upgrade.
There's literally no one behind George Kittle.
Mm-hmm.
How
Yeah.
much better would
And
this
it's been
team
like
be
that
right
for quite
now
some
with
time.
how much better would this team be right now, just as an example, okay? Because who was taken at number 11 last year?
Oh, I don't even remember.
I'm pretty sure it was Bowers who was taken at number 11 last year.
Okay. The other Brock.
Or 13 or whatever it was, right? But my thought is, my thought is in that process, how much better would it be this year if you had the number one generational tight end on the other side of Kittle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably would have helped some things up a little bit. Probably would have helped shore up that running game quite a bit.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
probably would have helped shore up the offensive line a little bit in terms of like a lot of good things could have happened out of that, right? So my hope is they take that seriously this year because I feel
Yeah.
like that tight end two position is never taken seriously, and it
Yeah.
always bites them at the worst possible time. I again
I agree.
cannot remember the last positive play made by a tight end two on this football team.
Yeah. Something
And
impactful. Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
one.
And
I'm so glad he was here because if he wasn't, we were bleeped, right?
mhm. Yeah. Shameless plug real quick. It's on topic though. I'm running a simulation of the 2011 49ers season. So for all my Madden freaks out there, check that out. Game 1 is coming out tomorrow. So check out the Stay Fakely channel for that. But man, running that sim brought back so much memories. And a big memory is Vernon Davis and Delaney Walker. Oh,
Yeah.
just having
Two.
two awesome tight ends on the field at the same time. You don't know what we're going to do. Are we going to run the ball? Are we going to throw the ball?
Yeah.
Just running havoc. And it's like, man,
Which
if we
team do
had
you
some
cover?
of that. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Oh man, to have some of that going on. Ugh.
I feel like it
Yeah.
would make Kyle's job easier. Like
Oh,
that's the
1,000
thing
times
that
easier.
that's just the thing that gets me. Like it seems like every year and every off season, we're talking about the exact same blind spots year
Mhm.
in, year
Yeah.
out. You know what I mean? Like it's just that, and every time it's like, oh well, we can put the worst defender in right field. The ball will never find him. Sure enough, the ball finds him in the ninth inning of the championship game every single time. We don't need to have a veteran kicker. We've got a rookie. He's going to nail every single kick all the way through, and is absolutely not going to get flustered by anything. Um, Oops, that didn't quite work out, right? Like he hit the big kick, but he did miss the extra point.
Yeah.
So does that game go differently if Robbie Gould's a kicker? I'm thinking it probably does. So there's a lot of it's just we don't have to worry about we don't have to worry about getting a return man this year because we got Trent Taylor on the practice squad. Well, Trent Taylor barely played, and the return
Yeah.
squad was garbage all year long. Oh, okay, here we go again, right? Like it's just they keep thinking that with a law of averages, the ball's not going to find the right fielder, and yet every time the ball finds the right fielder. Like everything needs to be shored up and full. You can't just let a couple weak spots go. And it seems like they're like, we'll settle at special teams. We'll settle for tight end too. And they do it every year.
Nah.
And every year it seems to get them. You know what I mean? Like just one of those deals.
No. They tried to address it. We got to give credit where credit is due. They did try to address it. They drafted a Cameron Latu or Braden Willis. They brought in various free agents at tight end too. It just hasn't worked out. It's just they brought in the wrong talent. And that goes back to Wonder Boy Adam Peters up till now.
Yeah.
It just hasn't worked out. So they tried to do that.
I mean,
They got to get better at it, and hopefully,
for
maybe the
this
new guys this
regime,
year will do so. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
for this regime, they actually the only time they came close was George Kittle and Jordan Reed.
Yeah, and Jordan Reed was a known commodity, right? Like, yeah, he was a known commodity. We know he was a beast, and when he got on the field, he was a beast. And unfortunately, the injury bug hit us. Like those guys were never together at the same time.
Yeah,
Nope.
that
They
was
were on
the
the
COVID
roster,
year.
but yep.
Could have been.
Yeah. So McNiner says that we tried to get the tight end from Detroit last offseason, but those buttholes matched on the last day.
Oh,
Yeah.
They
I remember
barely
that.
used him this year too, which was
I know.
really weird. They
Funny,
spent a ton of money to do nothing with him. Like they used Zylstra more than they used him this year, and they didn't use Laporta nearly as much as they used him last year. It's a really
Yeah.
weird year offensively in Detroit.
I think that was more just blocking your competition, right?
Yep.
It's like, who do you
Probably.
see? Who do we see as our main competition here? Was that team? Oh, and that team that sent us home last year. Definitely don't give them a player.
It's just weird. I would
I don't
want the
fault them for it.
49ers to overpay for my backup tight end, but they decided to match it instead. So have
Sin
fun.
says we should have upped the offer.
No, he was a restricted free agent though, so they get to
Yeah, so we wouldn't
match
be
the
able to.
offer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We could
and
have upped
then
it all day. And
yeah,
I mean, you could have poison pilled it, but then we probably end up losing somebody else.
So Papa J says if Pete Carroll comes to the Niners, would he have to conform to Kyle's defensive program, or would he be allowed to bring his own without Kyle micromanaging? Well, we run the wide nine, which is Pete Carroll's system from Seattle. So he would essentially be coming into his own system.
I still question, can he run it? Because he didn't run it.
True.
Can he make a call? Can he make an in-game adjustment? He's telling you, he hasn't been the coordinator for a long time.
True.
I graduated high school the year he was a defensive coordinator last. That's all I have for you.
That's a long time ago.
You're not that old, Maddie.
I'm old enough.
All right, guys.
Speaking
Anything
of,
else?
it's way
before we
past
get
our
out of here?
bedtime. Yeah, we
Yes.
got
Oh, it's
All
about
right,
it right now.
let's get to the 2-minute warning, and then we're out the door.
Where is it? And bam. Hey.
Yeah, Maddie.
Everybody keep your fingers crossed. I think there's a very good possibility the 49ers are going to play in London next year. I think they're going to play Cleveland. I think that's going to be a thing. So keep your fingers crossed. So I wouldn't mind going to that one. Other ones, not so much. That one probably. And then also let's go ahead and get a defensive coordinator and start getting some things filled so we can start figuring out what's going to be happening. Senior Bowl's coming up. Start paying attention to who the 49ers are paying attention to out of the Senior Bowl. They're usually pretty transparent about the guys they like out of that. So good stuff there. And hopefully with the extra time they've got this off season, they're productive with it.
Exactly.
So Dominic Pooney made the all-rookie team. Fred Warner made the all-NFL team. Congratulations to them. Shout out to the chat. You guys are always great. If you haven't already, like the video and subscribe. And yeah, let's get these defensive coordinator and special teams coach. Let's get these roles filled so we can move forward. But yeah, it's as always, go Niners.
Want to say happy birthday to the great George Seifert, 2-time Super Bowl winning coach George Seifert. Talk about defensive coordinators. Pull up a chair and let me tell you about George Seifert's defense. That was something special. You young people out there need to go watch some videos because it was beautiful. The coaching thing will get wrapped up soon, and I just want everybody to know that I am a candidate to be the defensive coordinator. We will be running the 46 defense. Shout out to Buddy Ryan. And we're going to knock the snot out of people. Go Niners.
All right. And with that being said, we are out and we will see you next week. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
See ya.
And of course, for the upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from Pontiac. 3rd and 3.
We'll see a pickup sometime on the right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone.